any other sky background choices when you created this model?
That's always a good question. We go out on days we know when there's clear view. And sometimes there are clouds, and many times, most of the time in New England, there are clouds, haze, and background colors that frankly do accommodate the visibility of the project in an effective way. There are also days, clearly, where there'll be a sharper view, and we plan our days as best we can to go out and pick them on representative views, and sometimes they won't be visible at all, and sometimes they'll be more starkly visible. No question about that. Thank you.
I don't think, the planning commission doesn't have any question on the way you've designed this. I've lived in that area my whole life, and I have no doubt this is how I envision it'll look from all the locations. I know the topography, and you've done a great job as far as I'm concerned. I have a quick question before I call on Joel. It's just what amount of energy is this supposed to generate?
Up to 20 megawatts.
The reason I brought that question, I was reviewing your plan, and in it, we have the resource of the Highgate Hydro Dam, and that generates 10 megawatts, which is sufficient and can even produce more. So, just my answer to you, and knowing you're a Vermonter, you've worked in Swanton and whatnot, we have a sufficient amount of energy as planners. That's why we're really trying to look at this project and see how important it is or isn't to the future of Swanton. And your comment was people that use the energy should be located in that area. And we have a sufficient amount of energy, so that's why we're working so hard on this project to try to see if it fits in Swanton's future. Do we need 40 more grocery stores in town? And again, we're trying to give you every opportunity to present your project. I think this was done extremely well. There's a lot of study that's gone on in what you presented tonight. So that's just my comment, and we want to continue with questions that we have. And Joel, go ahead.
Yeah, Jim, you guys have an impossible job, so I want to state that up front. And I take a look here at what was warned in the meeting, and it talks about the Swanton Planning Commission will conduct a public work session to review proposed amendments to the town and village municipal plan. Proposed amendments cover new provisions for green energy project. Members of the public invited to attend. And I know there was some email traffic that talked about some presentations tonight. I thought the presentations were going to be strictly on mythology, not this specific project, because I really think it's unfair to the public, to the town of Swanton, that we're reviewing this project and we're getting some very specific statements on why this project is good, why some of us should really look at it in this terms. And we took when I walked in here, it was a whole review of the specific site and what's going on. And I don't think that's fair to all the other people of what we're reviewing tonight. Methodology, I think, is great because that's what you need in determining what you're going to write in your plan and so on. But specific project review tonight, I don't think is what was warned for this meeting. So I just want to add that. And again, I know you got an impossible job, trying to do a fair, balanced job on writing the renewable part of the plan. And as far as doing project review tonight, I would just encourage that we stick more to methodology and not specific project review. That's just my comment for what it is.
Thank you, Joel.
Yep.
Again, we received requests at the last minute, and we tried to, we've asked for presentations for quite some time. We've had them in working sessions, and that's all we're trying to do is accommodate everybody, and we've done what we could. Yes, Anthony, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say that the minutes of the last meeting will reflect that the chair specifically invited the project to come forward with more information at this meeting.
Okay.
And I also know from watching the select board that there were many times when this was discussed under other business, and you went into very extensive unwarned discussions of the project early on. So we're all in a learning process here, and I hope you just can see, maybe we've made a mistake in not doing more notice on it, but this has been a community conversation for a very long time. We've been coming to these meetings for several months. We had an invitation at the last commission meeting. It was very clear from the chair, and we're just trying to respond to that invitation and give the community more information and more up-to-date information. And if the select board would like this information as well, we would be very happy to work with you in a warrant session to bring that forward
Okay,
as well.
fair enough, and I'll bring that to the select board. I'm just, as far as what is warned and what we're talking about, that's the question I have. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Any other additions, or I saw some other hands up, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I had a question regarding your picture or your presentation of how that would look from Fairfield Pond. And for me, personally, when I drive on the interstate, and I'm looking, let's say, roughly the same distance or even a little more at those wind turbines, and these are going to be a third bigger than those, they look rather big to me just driving by on the interstate. And when you were showing a picture of there from Fairfield Pond, it looks significantly smaller. And I'm having a little difficulty being able to understand what's wrong with my vision.
Don't believe the Georgia Wind Project has turbines that are a third smaller than this, that's number one.
No, these are going to be a third larger.
Well, right, I don't think these are a third larger than Georgia Wind. I think they're fairly, I don't have on the top of my head what the hub height is. I can certainly get back to you on that, and the turbine height. I don't think that the difference is that dramatic. And again, what I said is that using CAD, using all the tools that were available to us, we have created turbines that I will say here are true and accurate to the best of our ability and the best that technology can provide for them.
Did you estimate them
They're
at,
not an inaccurate representation.
did you estimate them at 499 feet? Is that what you did?
The highest, we're looking at two different options, but the highest to the blade tip would be 499 feet.
That's what that depicts.
I have to check, because we.
484.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it
we're
says
using the 484-foot model, so that's obviously a difference of 17 feet.
Do you guys do any
Could
representations?
you please just state your name when?
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve Woodward.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you guys do any representation of them actually spinning? Or is it always just a static?
We are now, there is now technology where you can do video.
Because when I drive down the interstate and the ones in Georgia aren't spinning, I drive right by without seeing them. But when they do this, that's when it catches your eye.
Sure.
And, I don't see a tree until the leaves are rustling. So,
Fair enough, yeah.
I would think maybe in the future, there would be,
It's very expensive to do
Wow.
This
is the future.
Yeah. And right now, in most review processes, that is not a required piece of the presentation. What is typically relied on are
I
the
understand that.
simulations, but I think you're absolutely right that that's a fair question, and video technology can provide a real-time view. The key is I've seen a number of them, and we just had a review one where the turbines were placed into a static photograph and were spinning, and that's not a fair and accurate representation. So you have to do obviously a real video, and then employ the right software to
So they
plug
have
in.
virtual roller coasters, I figured maybe you can have virtual turbines.
That's a good question. Good point.
Lady had a question over here.
Yeah. My name is Michelle Delon. When you speak of visual, I live just down the road from Rocky Ridge, and I can see New York's straight across, clear as can be. And they're 300 plus feet, they're not 400. So you're telling me my visual a couple miles down the road is gonna be looking like that. For me, I have to say I disagree with that, because you can actually see the ones in New York and they're much shorter. So for me to live a couple miles down the road, my visual is gonna be much different than hundreds of miles away.
I wouldn't argue with that.
They were about 2,200 feet. You just did the mile and a quarter, whatever. What about 2,000 feet? I'd like to see that. myself.
Again, we can't go onto private property and
You're
conduct
very
these.
welcome to come to my house. Yeah.
I would have to review that with the project team.
No, I think that's only fair.
I understand
You know,
that those, that, you know, when you live closer, your view will be definitely
Oh, yeah.
more prominent.
Yeah, and noise. Yeah.
The biggest problem is gonna be the noise.
Couple more comments, we've, like, again, I don't mean to be rude or brief or whatever, we've taken a lot of testimony, a lot of it hasn't really changed over the last few months. Our task as a planning commission is to work with our town plan. We're in the process of doing that on renewable energies, a task that has been re-emphasized out of Montpelier, that every town should work or review their renewable energy plan, in their plan, so that's where we're at. Couple more questions, and then our task will be to continue to work with what we last presented at the June 1st public hearing.
Sorry, Mr. Do you wanna just hear a little bit about the blasting and the cuts and fills? Cause it's been a little bit different than's been presented here. I mean, you did actually have under consideration a draft that said the blasting was extensive enough to drain wetlands, and that's just very far
Okay,
outside.
well, we've allowed about an hour presentation. If you've got something else that can enlighten us on that, I would appreciate it, sure.
High points, just.
A really quick, yeah, I'll give you the one that version.
However long it may take.
I'll try to keep it as brief as we can.
I didn't know we had another presenter. Excuse me for interrupting.
Sorry, I wasn't clear, that's why I was trying to.
Hey, Scott, over here.
Click these on the board?
I can call it. I got Scott. My name's Ian Jukes, I'm from President of Consulting Engineers, Scott Holmes, my partner.
Can you say your name again?
Sorry, my name's Ian Jukes, from Krebs and Lansing. Jewkes. Fits everyone. Let's see. This is the Rocky Ridge Road down here. The project has sort of four elements: an access road, a crane path to get between the turbine pads themselves, and the turbine pads with each wind generator on it, and then a stormwater system to treat all the stormwater that comes off the project. I wasn't here for the questions on blasting where people were talking about, but the net cut on this site right now, and this is the draft design, is 140,000 yards. Of that, probably half of it's dirt. We don't have exact sounding, so I can't give you a real number. Say 70,000 yards of blasting would be done. Of that, that material is going to get crushed on site and used to build the roads. So, and the blasting would happen on 6, 3, 4, and a little bit on 5. So really, basically, it's a fill job, so that most of the roads are staying pretty close to the ground. Basically, bring material in to build this, and then there's a couple places where we're pushing down into rock to generate rock. It just happens to be that's kind of how we have to do it on the site, because we're weaving in and out around so many environmental restrictions. There's kind of only one place to put it. So, that's kind of, when you're talking about blasting, that's where it's going to be, there, and a little bit on the island. So,
In comparison to a project like Lowell Mountain, which has been discussed here in the select
right,
board.
Lowell Mountain, every inch of it was blasted, just about. So, so the roadways themselves generated a lot of rock. This, and that's a much steeper project. This, the only thing that's steep here is really the access road, which just has to do the trucks. The crane path is pretty flat. So. Any questions on blasting?
These guys also do stormwater. Yeah.
I can talk about that just for a real brief minute, and just to say that, the goal of our project will be to meet all the, first of all, to meet all the applicable state standards for stormwater management. Stormwater is very heavily regulated in the state. And the second will be to treat stormwater the best we can while minimizing the impacts to natural resources and tree cutting. And so, really, we'll use the practices available to us, such as ponds and swales, vegetative disconnections, treat stormwater, meet the rules, get permits. And we think that'll be relatively easy to do on the site.
Could I just have your name, sir?
Scott Homestead, also with Krebs and Lansing.
Can you spell
HOMSD.
Okay, thank you. Again, to receive a brief presentation of a project that hasn't even been technically applied for, I don't know if we put the cart before the horse, but our job is to work with our town plan and see what Swanton's vision is for the future and what Swanton's needs are and what could be detrimental or not detrimental to Swanton's future. So that's where we are. Appreciate what was presented. Again, I think the cart's before the horse. But we
How
want to
far
give
away
the
are you
opportunity
from
to
the
make comments. Yes, Mariana?
blasting?
Hi, Representative Mariana Gamache from Swanton. So, this has been a rather long meeting, so in the interest of brevity, I have language
Water wells, but there's no effect.
that I would like to offer for the energy plan, for Swanton's energy component. And this language is predicated upon the Public Service Board's request for specific kinds of language. And I have this, it's available. I'd like to pass it out to all the board members. We've had a very large crowd here tonight, so I don't have enough copies for everyone. I don't know how to best handle that, if we can make copies for folks before they leave, or if something could go on the website,
If it's
or.
anything you're gonna present, anybody who wishes a copy this evening can receive it, one way or another, if it's a fairly brief document.
It's-
I don't know how many copies we can make of.
It's 5 pages.
5 pages.
Let me give it to you, and you can make, it's not full pages,
Yeah, well.
Could you maybe send it in electronic version and make it available with the minutes? Is that acceptable to the chair?
That could be, I wanna make sure you folks get a copy,
Yeah, I've
and
got it.
any other interested parties maybe could share a copy briefly, and then we can make it visible maybe on the website or somewhere. David could probably, everybody signed in, so he probably could make the connection, but everybody here is important, but to save time and resources, it looks like you have a dozen copies there or so, so we certainly,
So here's,
the board could,
everybody on this table.
How many people would like a copy tonight?
this next one here, so. And maybe, she'll get them. Moving forward, we had spent close to 6 months working on a proposed amendments to our plan. And then in late May, out of Montpelier, kind of threw a red light on and said, really look at what you're putting in your plan. Other ideas came out of Montpelier and from other people, legislators and whatnot. So that's where we are right now. At this point, we had approved as a planning commission this text that's in front of us. Anthony, do you have a copy of that?
Yes, thank you, David.
And Travis, yep. And what I propose that we will do is we'll move forward, looking at verbiage that's in this plan here, and asking for and discussing as a commission for any other additions or deletions of this plan that we had in place on June 1st. With that, planners, do you have any questions or any comments right now on where we're at with the plan?
So we'll go through this now. Then we should all have some time to look over what's been proposed here, I would assume, to see if it blends in with this, or any changes that we want to make or the public wants to make. Or should we then have a subcommittee come back and work out a plan for I don't know, I mean,
What,
how 35 of us are gonna write a plan?
it's up to the
I'm
planning,
not sure.
it's up to the planning commission to
Yeah.
write the plan, taking into consideration different materials. So, because it has been an average, I guess, to slightly long meeting, what I would recommend, to the planning commission is that anything that was presented, or anything that, Anthony or you folks would like to further present, we will review this and then start our next meeting off, discussing whether we want to make any further changes to what was presented 6-1, or to leave it as is, and then proceed with approval from the planning commission, and then to the zoning board adoption of our town plan changes. So, that's where we are right now. Questions to that? Decisions? A motion that we do that then? Motion that we review what has been presented, what we had in effect of June 1st, review information, and then come back to the next meeting, which will be September 21st. And then we can discuss if we wanna make changes, additions, deletions. Right? That works? Motion to that?
Okay, all right, I'll make that motion. But I just wanna make sure that we don't, 35 people trying to write something, we're not gonna get anywhere.
As I
In that
said,
evening.
it's
Yeah.
up to the planning
Yeah.
commission to make those deliberations, and that's what we'll do in a public working meeting.
Yeah.
And as we
Yeah.
review those and make those changes, or we do not make those changes, we'll present it as we discuss it.
As, just to make sure that we're all on the same track here. I have time. So if I come home on August or September 12th, or before there, or between now and September 12th, if I wanna sit at home, take this, and anything else that shows up in the next few days, and put it together into a working paper, is that okay?
And you can work on whatever you want on your own and present it, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's all I wanna know.
Yes. And then next meeting will be a working meeting, public hearing, working session, to work on the final, hopefully, we're working on finally coming up with a final, renewable energy plan for the town of Swan. Okay. You made the motion, seconded? Any other discussion on how we're gonna move forward? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay. Further on the agenda, we have a review of the minutes of July 20th, 27th, and August 10th that we'll work on. We'll work on making those motions right now. And while we're preparing to do that, is there any other necessary business? Anybody have anything? Anthony, Travis? We appreciate your fine presentation tonight. You guys did an excellent job. Okay,
Could you give me the date of that 7 days newspaper?
I'm happy to leave the copy with you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
I make the motion to accept the August 10th meeting minutes as written.
second that motion?
Yes, we've had a chance to review this.
Yeah, we reviewed them. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I make the motion to accept the minutes for Wednesday, July 20th, 2016, planning commission meeting.
Second of that motion?
Second.
Second by Ed. Any discussion on that? Again, we've had a chance to review those. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to accept the July 27th meeting minutes as written.
I second it. I make a motion.
Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor of the minutes of
July 27th.
July 27th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With that, we will hold our next working session on renewable energies on September, they're changing, was it 21st? 21st, 7 PM.
Jim, yes, just to note that each of you received a copy of the open meeting law compilation that came from the VLCT
Yep,
tonight.
yep, everybody has that document, and it is in our possession. Thank you, Dave. Yeah. Before we adjourn, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, about that article, the 7 days, or Burlington Free Press, I just wanna also bring it to your attention that both the representatives from Milton, who represent their community, were both really strong supporters of making changes in legislation, to make stronger protective sound standards for wind turbines. So they know what's going on in their community too. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that there's another side of that story.
I didn't get them all.
Yeah, we got, there's another one that's gotta come down.
Everyone sign the one that we handed down.
I appreciate everybody's input. Believe me, if it's been printed, we've probably seen or heard about it, so thank you for everybody's interest. So with that, motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Second by Andy. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.